Let me just adjust this.
Hello, Patriots. Some of you may know that I published this book on 9/11. And I thought that I would just do an overview on how I think things went down as a commemorative edition here. Now, let me start by saying I managed a false flag operation for the Central Intelligence Agency. These are very, very real. What is a false flag? It merely means not what it appears to be. The term originated in maritime warfare when pirates and enemies would fly the flag of their prey until they got close enough to do a surprise attack. Today, it means that what you think happened didn't actually happen. And people may have been killed, but perhaps they were killed by actual paramilitary operatives, not by the dumbass kid that they claimed did the shooting in Sandy Hook, to take one example. The Boston bombing was not an explosive thing done by these two poor, hapless patsies. That was a FEMA-controlled operation, and it was there to see if they could lock down an entire city and go door to door without search warrants. Now, who coined the term conspiracy theory? That term was coined by the CIA in order to put down people who were questioning the official narrative about the JFK assassination. You're going to find that I'm going to relate today the JFK assassination and 9/11. They are bookends on the fight between we the people, the 99%, and the 1%, the deep state and its shadow government enablers. There have been 53 admitted false flag attacks in modern history. And I tip my hat to global research. If you go and search for global research, 53 admitted false flag attacks, you'll get right to it. All major countries have done this, including China, Russia, Turkey, certainly the United Kingdom, and most certainly the United States of America. Now, all of my false flag books are available free online, and I just show you this. You can see the tiny URL down there. So it's a very simple matter for you to get to the single point of reference and do whatever reading you might want to do. Now, the book, 9/11, Truth, is 28 memoranda by 26 authors, including Peter Dale Scott, David Ray Griffin, and Richard Gage from Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, and some other extraordinary individuals, including Tom Scott Gordon, who has documented that planning for 9/11 started in 1987 to 1989, Fred Burke, who documents the Gold War, the $240 billion that were laundered, and so forth. So I commend this book to you. It's free online, as with most of my work. In my view, 9/11 disclosure, as well as full disclosure on deep state child trafficking and torture and murder, is the precondition for making America great again. There are over 12 specific people that need to be brought to justice and multiple shadow government criminal networks that must be taken down. The overarching importance of 9/11, in my view, is its impact on the public. This event was so catastrophic and the official narrative so clearly falsified that it began the Great Awakening. And it may have been the catalytic event for the white hats who launched the presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump in direct response to this crime against humanity, executed by what is called the Red Mafia, comprised of Russian criminals, not the Russian state, in close alliance with the Zionist state of Israel and the Mossad in particular, never ever to be confused with the Jewish faith, as well as selected leaders of New York, New Jersey, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which owned the buildings until July of the year in which they were destroyed, and President Dick Cheney, among others. Now, this distinction between criminal Zionism and the Jewish faith is so important, I have published an extensive commentary. There is nothing anti-Semitic about being against the Zionist state of Israel, which is an apartheid criminal invented state run by Russian criminals, and in the United States run by Zionists who are traitors to the United States of America. 9/11 is best understood as the bookend to another false flag event, the assassination of JFK by his own government, an endeavor led by Lyndon Baines Johnson, carried out by 9 different parties, none of whom trusted one another, so they each provided their own shooter. And with the Zionist state of Israel sending two witnesses, Yitzhak Rabin, who is dead, but who comes into play on 9/11, and Arnon Milchan, whom I also believe is associated with 9/11, as the theatrical producer working closely with Larry Silverstein and Maurice Greenberg. I will summarize the findings of the 26 experts, including Peter Dale Scott and David Ray Griffin, as well as Richard Gage and others, all documented free online. Planning for the contrived controlled demolition of the Twin Towers began no later than 1989 and possibly as early as 1987, when the EPA is reported to have identified structural failings that would, if not corrected, mandate the manual deconstruction. Controlled demolitions were explicitly forbidden of these terribly built buildings with considerable asbestos and other toxic hazards. And that must be completed by 2007. This made the Twin Towers an immediate $2 billion liability and set in motion planning by some combination of New York and New Jersey, New York City and Port Authority of New York and New Jersey officials with Zionist players such as Larry Silverstein, builder of the original World Trade Center 7 and buyer of the Twin Towers months before the specified false flag event, as well as Maurice Greenberg, the pass-through insurer, AIG, toward some form of insurance fraud that would allow the buildings to be catastrophically brought down with controlled demolitions for the double benefit of ignoring the EPA ruling against controlled demolitions and claiming insurance benefits that ultimately totaled close to $12 billion, alleging that terrorists did it. The Twin Towers, folks will remember, was a Rockefeller project forced upon the citizens against great opposition. Coincident with the decision to set in motion some sort of catastrophic event at the state Red Mafia or Russian Zionist USA state-sponsored criminal crime level, Dick Cheney was appointed to be Secretary of Defense under George H.W. Bush. Remember now, George H.W. Bush was present at the JFK assassination and apparently an active participant as a CIA non-official cover officer. I believe that both Cheney, long known to be owned by the Zionist state of Israel, and Yitzhak Rabin, one of two Zionists in Dallas for JFK and soon to be Prime Minister of Israel, were briefed no later than 1990. I speculate that they agreed this was a heaven-sent opportunity to create the ultimate false flag terrorist event to justify a police state within the USA and an eternal global war on a fictional enemy, terrorism, abroad. Others were clearly briefed as well. Benjamin Netanyahu, the furniture salesman promoted to notional leader of the invented state of Israel, also known to speak to Larry Silverstein every week, put the idea of 9/11 and the Twin Towers into his book, Fighting Terrorism, How Democracies Can Defeat Domestic and International Terrorism, and he explicitly wrote in his book about a nuclear bomb being planted by Muslim terrorists in the basement of the Twin Towers. Rudy Giuliani was mayor of New York City from 1994 to 2001. Giuliani's intimate relationship with the Red Mafia is best understood by focusing on the fact that Michael Chertoff, with his ostensible deputy, perhaps his handler, when Giuliani and the FBI were hired by the Red Mafia to put the Italian Mafia out of business so that the Zionists and the Russian criminal cohorts, the Lanskys and Bronfmans with an N, and Wexners could take over organized crime across the USA, but generally in partnership with presidential crime families such as the Bush crime family, the Clinton crime family, the Obama crime family. I don't believe there is a Trump crime family. In fact, Detective Jimmy Boots Rothstein, NYPD in the 1990s, tells me that Trump is known to be a man of his word on 8th Avenue among the people who manage the construction business and, of course, among the politicians, some of whom have been in Trump's pocket, including Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, something he can't get over. It merits comment that the Twin Towers were owned by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey until July of the year in which they were taken down. There is no way this event happened with all of the preparations that were needed, including closing down the security cameras, taking the dogs away and not allowing them to return and so forth, without the active collaboration of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the mayor of New York City, and in my view, the governors of New York and New Jersey. Now, once George Bush Jr., oh, by the way, it's known that Les Wexner funded the Epstein pedophilia operation, and it is alleged that Les Wexner, one of the 12 Zionists, may have funded 9/11. He is now under close scrutiny. Once Bush Jr. and Vice President Dick Cheney took office, the stage was set for the long-planned catastrophic event. Maurice Greenberg of AIG insured it and quickly resold the insurance to others so that he and AIG would not suffer any losses. The Patriot Act was written in advance. Zelikow may have been one of the people who set the stage for that with his catastrophic terrorism work out of Harvard with John Deutsch and others. The Zionists installed the controlled demolitions that assisted what I believe was clearly a directed energy controlled frequency event in the Twin Towers, controlled demolitions alone for WTC-7, and a massive cover-up was executed. I am undecided about the nuclear aspect, but quite certain this was more than just thermite. CIA and John Brennan played a role. While I have no direct knowledge, it is clear that the Saudis provided passports for the patsies, some of whom were not Saudi, and it is reported that John Brennan, as chief of station for the CIA in Saudi Arabia, 1986, may have played a role in facilitating Saudi logistic support for the U.S.-Israel false flag attack, even though this meant framing Muslims for a Zionist atrocity. It merits comment that according to one of the authors, 8 of the alleged patsies are still alive today and complaining of identity theft. Now, John Brennan was also actively involved in 9/11 in that he was the deputy to Buzzy Krongard for the Cold War against Russia, an undeclared economic war, and $240 billion from that Cold War in off-budget, offshore accounts were laundered by the 9/11 atrocity by design. 9/11 was used to achieve multiple economic objectives, including the laundering of $240 billion in illicit wealth from the CIA Cold War against Russia, managed by Buzzy Krongard and John Brennan. George Tenet was the director of the CIA. He was previously Bush's intelligence advisor in the White House. And in addition to laundering $240 billion, perhaps billions of dollars in gold and other valuables were stolen by being removed from the Twin Tower vaults in the basement earlier. There was insider trading, and all of the files for the Security and Exchange Commission on Wall Street criminal activity were destroyed as a happy collateral benefit. 9/11 cases did not go to trial. Controlled Zionist judges and prosecutors ensured that all cases were generously settled so as to avoid any threat of discovery of demands for evidence that must be met. There appears to be one case against Silverstein that advanced toward a settlement after partial discovery. In a nutshell, every elected and appointed official in the entire New York, New Jersey Port Authority and city and state complex was in some way complicit in covering up the facts on 9/11. Aircraft did not bring down the Twin Towers. The AIG offices appear to have served as a theatrical set for prepositioned explosives, and a U.S. Air Force Information Operations aircraft appears to have managed the holograms of aircraft melting into the buildings. These are titanium engines that would not go through steel beams every 14 inches. The wings would have fallen off, the nose would have crumpled, the tail would have dropped, there would have been body parts and luggage and seats everywhere. The media was pre-scripted and in one instance read their script 7 minutes too soon. It is highly significant to me that Arnon Milchan, one of the 2 Zionist participants in the JFK assassination, managed a movie and a TV series prior to 9/11 in which he practiced the staging of aircraft flying into buildings. I am compelled by the physics of steel beams every 14 inches and the complete absence of airplane debris, less one carefully placed engine having nothing to do with any of the flights, to find that this was pure theater, optics. The Pentagon was arranged by Donald Rumsfeld. There was no aircraft. There may not have even been a missile. Through that as a distinct possibility. One of our authors documents her view that the Pentagon blew the hole in the wall from inside out and then blew up an aircraft as part of the simulation. I have no direct knowledge of the degree to which the insider attack on the Pentagon was intended to destroy the very people investigating the misappropriation of trillions of dollars from the USA to Zionist Israel via DoD Comptroller Dov Zahain. But one of our authors addresses this directly. At best, this was a missile or drone, as was stated by the U.S. Major General on television when the hole was still visible before the facade collapsed and there was no airplane debris anywhere to be seen. The crash in Pennsylvania was staged. At the time, I was working closely with U.S. Special Operations Command, and their analysts told me that the scene was clearly a bomb crater into which a truckload of parts had been dumped. The narrative about cell phone calls from aircraft in flight is beneath contempt, but one of our authors destroys this narrative in detail. Other explanations are possible, including a remote-controlled aircraft sacrificed for an area display. The false narrative about cell phone calls and let's roll is the kind of detail that helps assess the official narrative for what it is, a pack of lies advanced with the active collaboration of a treasonous media controlled by the deep state. The cover-up is most interesting to me. Philip Zelikow, a key Zionist who helped pioneer the whole concept of catastrophic terrorism, appears to have shown up on the first day of his role as the executive director of the investigative commission with an outline of how the report would be structured. He knew the conclusions in advance. And so it came to pass. There is no question but that this commission was as dirty as the Warren Commission, an almost poetic joining of the JFK assassination and the 9/11 false flag atrocity as the bookends for the Great Awakening and the death of the deep state. I testified to this commission, and I note with sadness that two of the commissioners felt compelled to condemn the commission for failing to serve the public interest. We're looking at the decline and fall of the deep state and its Obama, Biden, Schumer, Pelosi puppets. I'm going to conclude my remarks with three observations. First, it is no accident that Michael Chertoff, the Red Mafia handler for Rudy Giuliani back in the day, was the first secretary for the Department of Homeland Security created in the aftermath of 9/11 to facilitate and accelerate the creation of a police state in the USA under Chertoff's direction. I speculate that DHS made it possible for the Zionists to penetrate all law enforcement, computers, and communications at the local level, and DHS mutated the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, from a disaster relief organization into a false flag coordinating authority and a manager of prison camps in waiting across the USA. Extensive Zionist training of U.S. police was facilitated and funding, teaching U.S. police, generally in urban areas, a culture of brutality, that U.S. citizens should be treated as the Zionists treat the Palestinians, as cockroaches. Second, under FEMA leadership and after Obama-Biden modified the Smith-Mundt Act to permit active deception of the U.S. public, we had a spate of domestic false flag events from Sandy Hook to the Boston bombing to Orlando and beyond. I published my second book, Sandy Hook Truth, delivered to the White House, the Attorney General, two congressional committees, and the new Secretary of DHS to stop these events. I may have been partially successful. Subsequent false flags in the USA, such as the Pittsburgh Synagogue, appear to be entirely Zionist in nature with a wink and a nod from FEMA and the FBI. My edited work on this event can be found at tinyurl.com/sh-POTUS, all in capital letters. Third and finally, I conclude that COVID-19, a fake pandemic, closely tied to a global economic meltdown necessary to cover over $300 trillion in naked short selling positions, with the total complicity of the mainstream and social media controlled by the deep state, with the Anti-Defamation League being the primary censorship and information manipulation authority, the trusted flagger, with an Amazon, Facebook, Google meetup where ADL is sponsoring 1,087 #resist seditionist meetups, all with fees waived or perhaps paid by the ADL, and then Twitter and YouTube. This is a last desperate attempt of the deep state to destroy Donald Trump by destroying the U.S. economy while profiting from insider trading. They have profited, and they have also failed to achieve their political and economic objectives. My original analysis is easily read at tinyurl steel-wuhan. We are at a turning point in U.S. history. I have been sponsoring a book, Pedophilia and Empire, Satan's Sodomy and the Deep State, with all chapters and a tag cloud of names free online at pedoempire.org, precisely to make the point that in addition to false flag events and wars based on lies, predatory, murderous pedophilia embodied in satanic ritual abuse is the essence of the deep state and its Zionist underbelly. President Trump has recognized QAnon for what it is, a network of digital soldiers. This is General Mike Flynn's phrase, that understands that at root, both the JFK assassination and 9/11 are the work of Satanists engaged in pedophilia and murderous pedophilia to control and diminish every commonwealth. To understand 9/11, one must understand Satanism and pedophilia, and vice versa. From prayers in Tibet to meditation around the world, from activist alternative media channels to the new organizations of sheriffs and pastors saying no to state and federal authorities that have been bribed and blackmailed, often with pedophilia videos, to prey on the public on behalf of the deep state, goodness and truth are, in my view, ascendant. 9/11 was an atrocity whose architects are known by name. I pray for the day that Cheney and Rumsfeld and Giuliani and Zelikow, that Silverstein and Greenberg and Milchan and Wexner are properly investigated, interrogated, indicted, convicted, and incarcerated. The deep state is a parasite, and the expulsion of that parasite looms large. John F. Kennedy Jr. pledged to expose all those who assassinated his father. I myself am pledged to expose all those who carried out 9/11 and to hold President Trump to his promise made in Bluffton, South Carolina on 16 February 2016, to wit, you will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center. The truth at any cost lowers all other costs. The truth and trust are the foundation of civilization. In my view, election 2020 is about the truth and trust, about faith, family, and freedom, versus Satanists and pedophiles, versus Sodom and Gomorrah. From the assassination of JFK to 9/11, with all the atrocities, including wars based on lies that we have suffered, I sense both a great awakening and the resurrection of virtue in America and the world. God bless all of you. God bless America. And God bless the President of the United States of America and the First Lady, Melania Trump.
Please share and like. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Please share and like. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.